Sooner fans, Longhorn Nation, welcome to episode 136 of the Bevo Podcast, the only podcast exclusively dedicated to covering the greatest rivalry in college football, the University of Oklahoma and the University of Texas. I'm here with my man, Kevin Miller. I am John Whitson. Kevin, the bye week has created another entire week of anxiety for the OU Texas game that I heretofore do not remember experiencing. Normally, you're stuck with like an Iowa State or a K-State or a TCU game before that kind of takes your mind off of it, lets you kind of like not focus so much on the Texas game. You're kind of thinking, well, we need to get through this one. Let's not look ahead, even though everybody's looking ahead. All the stuff that goes along with that. But there's nothing else to think about, Kevin. I am obsessed with the OU Texas game 2024, October 12th in Dallas, Texas, in the Cotton Bowl. This is the first time we meet as SEC foes. It's either going to be number 1 or number 2 Texas against Oklahoma. I don't remember the last time Texas was ranked number 1. Do you remember?
No, I don't. I think even in 2009, we might have been number 2, if I remember correctly.
I think possibly, somebody fact checked me on this, 1984. And that game ended in a tie in the rain on a bad call, by the way. Oklahoma got screwed.
It was a bad call.
Anyway,
absolutely.
Kevin, all I can think about is this game. And anytime I see somebody just out, went to dinner last night, it's like, what do you think of the Texas game? I mean, the buildup for this feels unusually high for the Thursday before the weekend, before OU Texas.
Yeah, you're right. Just like you said, though, not having an opponent this weekend, that's all you have to do is think about this game. And the weird thing is, right, you start to think about ways you can win the game. Well, on the flip side, you also think about, hey, but what if they do this? What about this matchup? What if this happens? So, yeah, like you said, it creates a different level of anxiety that you don't typically have when you have a game the week before the Red River Shootout.
Okay, you're right. That's exactly right. So typically in a normal week, my Mondays and Tuesdays are filled with all the ways we can lose the game. I'm not going to lie. That's me as an OU fan. I think that's a lot of OU fans. If we can lose the game, we're not running the ball well. The offensive line's not performing. We have top 15 receivers are hurt. We have a true freshman quarterback. There is no chance we're winning this game. That's Monday or Tuesday before any game. Doesn't really matter if it's Texas or not. But by Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, OU fan is starting to convince themselves, well, hell, we got a chance. Like this could actually happen. We can beat Texas. And I'm kind of feeling that right now. But this is Thursday before the weekend, before the game. So I have another series of emotions to have to go through next week, Kevin. I'm not sure I can handle it. I don't know that I can handle the ups and downs. It's going to be a miracle if I make it alive. My birthday is Tuesday, Kevin. I turned 46 on Tuesday.
Okay.
Being an OU fan, I think, adds 50 years to your heart. Okay? I'm on all sorts of blood pressure medications. I got the apnea. I got it all. And I think it's all related to OU Texas. I think I can pinpoint the apnea, Kevin. This isn't necessarily OU Texas, but back to the 2017-18 Rose Bowl, right? Okay. I literally think all of my sleep problems came when Lincoln Riley refused to run the ball on 4th and 1 with Rodney Anderson. And since then, I have had fitful sleep. And now with an OU Texas game for 2 weeks, I'm waking up at 3 a.m. And I'm saying to myself, are we going to get blown out by Texas? Are we going to get destroyed by Quinn Ewers? Am I going to be able to handle a loss to the cocky Sarkisian? And it just keeps me up at night. All that being said, I'm hoping to use this preview episode of Week 6 as a little bit of a cathartic, therapeutic experience to go through the facts and try to set myself a little bit at ease. Is that fair?
Yeah, it's more than fair. It's more than fair. The anxiety's real. It's real for this game.
Oh, dude, listen, it's real. Are you kidding me? It's so real. Let's talk OU Texas storylines, and then we're going to preview the week that is in week 6. There's not great games. That's the other problem. There's not like some titanic matchup on the college football landscape that takes my mind off of this. I mean, I think the best game, we'll talk about it, but I think the best game might be Missouri A&M. Well, I hope both of
that's
those
the one I'm
teams.
looking forward to the most.
Yeah, well, I don't care about that game. I don't really care. It doesn't get me excited because I think they're both loser programs, and so the excitement level is like,
You might be right about that, but there is some interesting storylines for that game. And I mean, you guys face Missouri later. We obviously face A&M later this season. So I want to see, is A&M a decent team?
Can they both lose? That's what I want to see. Is that possible?
Well, maybe they beat the crap out of each other,
God, I don't know. They're terrible. We're going to come back to it again. OU, Texas. Let's start with what I think. There's two predominant storylines for OU and Texas, or Texas and OU. Let's start on the Texas side. It's pretty much assured that Quinn is playing and starting, right?
That's everything I'm hearing leads me to believe that Quinn will be the starting quarterback for Texas in the Cotton Bowl.
Did you think entering the Texas game that Arch Manning would have more touchdown passes than Quinn Ewers?
No.
Entering the OU game, I mean.
No, I did not. Now, Quinn being injured obviously is not a surprise because it's happened every year he's been a starter. But I did not expect Arch even being out there to play as well as he's been playing. Honestly, I mean, and I know he's the future and everything, but I've been very vocal about this, that I did not want Arch to be playing a lot early. But him being forced into action and the way that he's played has just been incredible for me to watch it. And I can't wait for him to be our starting quarterback.
Next year. Right? No, I'm not talking about you can't wait him to be a starting quarterback next game. You're saying next year.
Next year, yeah. I'm ready for Quinn to come back and do his thing.
You're a Texas fan. Okay? But I'm going to ask you a question from the OU point of view. Who would OU rather face?
I don't know, man. You guys have never really had a lot of respect for Quinn Ewers. So I think, would rather face Arch because of the inexperience. But I think the more casual fan sees Arch throwing all these deep balls that are right on the money. And you guys say, well, I'd rather face Quinn because we've forced Quinn into some bad plays so far in his career. That's what I think OU fans would think about it.
What is Quinn against OU?
1-1 as a starter.
He's 1-1. Last year, he had moments of complete ineptitude, largely forced on him by the Oklahoma defense, and moments of, quite honestly, in that second half where he looked like the best quarterback in the country. Yeah. I will give him that. What you say the stat all the time. You love giving stats and losing efforts. What's the stat?
Like 27 straight completions.
27 straight completions in a 34-30 loss. That's a great stat. Okay, so the problem is when I think about Quinn, I think he's a known commodity for Brent Venables. And he's mobile enough, but he's not going to beat us with his feet. You got Mason Thomas. You got Mason Thomas playing out of his mind right now. Dominic Williams, Grayson Halton, Jaden Jackson, Trace Ford is giving some really good minutes right now. Getting to the quarterback. You've got a great offensive line. This is going to be the best defensive line they've seen, best offensive line we've seen. Like it's an intriguing matchup, especially in pass protection.
Well, hold on. I will say that Michigan defensive line is pretty salty, man.
That's fair. Mason Thomas is leading the SEC in sacks right now.
Yeah, he's the best edge by far that we faced this year.
And we'll talk Colin Simmons. That's the storyline too. But let's just focus on you might be right on the whole, but we're not bad. I think we're actually pretty good.
Oh no, you guys are great. I'm just saying we have gone up against another good defensive line.
What I'm getting at is the running threat of Jackson Arnold. I mean, not Jackson. The running threat of Arch Manning makes me really nervous.
Gotcha. Okay.
Like he can throw the ball like Quinn and run the ball like Arch. Now, he's not Vince Young, but he is a very athletic quarterback, especially compared to Quinn Ewers in terms of escapability and straight line speed. And if something breaks down, and OU really hasn't seen a dual threat quarterback yet this year that I can think of.
No, I agree.
And so it actually makes me nervous. Last week, again, all I've been thinking about is this stupid game. So last week, I'm thinking to myself, well, we want Jackson. I keep saying Jackson. We want Arch Manning because he's a freshman. Freshmen don't do well in this environment. We can get to him. He hasn't seen BB schemes, all of this stuff. But I'm really worried about his ability to tuck and run the ball. Like, that makes me nervous in a game like this, especially if we're putting a lot of pressure on him and our edges get a little bit excited, lose contain, and we let the guy get out. I really think that Arch is the bigger threat to OU than Quinn. But you're saying you don't really think so. You're thinking Quinn gives Texas the best opportunity to win.
Yeah, well, like you mentioned that Venables is used to Quinn. I think the same could apply for Quinn. He's seen Venables schemes for 2 years, and so is Sark. Now, that doesn't mean, I'm not saying he's going to go out and, throw for 500 yards and 5 touchdowns, but he won't be as surprised by a lot of the exotic blitzes, and I think he has a temperament to be able to adjust to some of those looks that he's seen, even if he hasn't seen them before. He won't throw a panicked interception. I hope not at this point in his career. Last year, on that first drive last year, I still don't know what he was thinking there. You guys jumped the slant route and he was looking. He pump fakes and then throws it still into traffic and it gets intercepted. It was the most obvious, predictable interception I've ever seen.
Let me ask you this. Quinn has had moments in his career where he does panic. Perfect example, what you just mentioned in the Cotton Bowl last year, first quarter of the game. If Quinn is shaky at any point in the first half of the game, does Sark pull the trigger on Arch?
I mean, if it's looking like he is about to lose us the game, I think he should, absolutely. The goal is to win the game, man.
You said should. I'd say does he?
Man, I don't know. That's a really good question. I think if it's looking like Quinn is going to lose us the game, I think he would switch him. If it's like this guy's not getting it done, turning the ball over. We've seen this happen before in this game.
Yeah, I think the problem is going to be not the problem, but the problem in that thought of whether he's going to get pulled or not is that I'm not sure Oklahoma has the firepower to put the game out of reach or in jeopardy in the first 3 quarters. Like, if Oklahoma is going to win, I think it's going to have to be a really, really close game for quarter 1, 2, 3 into the fourth quarter. And as long as it stays a close game, I think you go with your 3-year starter, right?
I completely agree. Unless he's got, if he's got 3 bad interceptions, he's just not seeing the field well. That's one thing. But yeah, if it's a close, tight game, yeah, there would be no reason to make a quarterback change.
Okay, quarterback on the other side is Michael Hawkins, making his second start as a true freshman, coming off a win in Auburn, where he looked statistically okay. 10 of 15 for like 196 yards or something like that. Made the play of the game offensively with the 66-yard throw to J.J. Hester, in addition to like a 50-yard touchdown run. Everybody talks about the environment at Auburn, so he gets a ton of credit for that. He never got the sense that he was going to turn the ball over. He seemed in control. A couple of mistakes, missed some reads. That's fine. Can a true freshman against this Texas defense and the environment that is the Cotton Bowl, OU Texas, can Michael Hawkins perform to the level that it's going to take to beat Texas?
I mean, I wouldn't put it against the kid. I wouldn't put it past him. The ability, first of all, he's shown the ability to not turn the ball over. That's the most important thing compared to Jackson Arnold. He was a turnover machine. The pick 6 against Tulane, the 3 turnovers against Tennessee. To give Hawkins credit, since he's been in the game, like I said, I don't remember even really a turnover-worthy throw that he's made.
Right.
I could be missing something, but I don't remember.
No, it's never been close.
Right? And he's held on to the football despite taking some massive hits. Right? So that already gives you a chance. And then when you have a guy who's a dynamic athlete, this game can be really emotional. And you talked about this with Arch, about your edges getting up the field. If we get up the field against Hawkins, I mean, we know he can take it to the house against almost any defense in the country. I mean, it was over 21 miles an hour on that touchdown run against Auburn. So, I mean,
he ran like a
that's
4.34. He ran like 4.3, 4.40 in pass. Now it was a running start, but still, that's pretty damn quick.
Exactly. So that's enough to score on any defense in the country. So that's something that we definitely have to be aware of. I think with Texas, though, you just have to make sure you keep them contained.
You think you're going to
from the pocket?
You think if we don't get Burks back, which we're going to talk about injuries, but let's say Oklahoma's offense is as constituted as it was against Auburn, just for the sake of the conversation, that's the offense you're going to get. Those are the offensive players you're going to have. Is Texas going to pull in Auburn and do double spies from the beginning with their linebackers?
I think it'd be smart. I think it'd be really smart too, because you have to force the receivers to beat you. Otherwise, force the receivers to beat you, especially the fact that you haven't shown the ability to run the football consistently at all this season from the running backs.
We did not run the ball last year very well against you, but the quarterback run game was huge.
It was the biggest factor in the game.
Yeah. So if we can replicate that same kind of game plan, I tell you that the biggest thing to me though is the offensive game plan looked actually pretty good against Tennessee in terms of scripted plays, right up until Arnold started going haywire. But the scripted plays were moving the ball. There was movement against that Tennessee defense.
Yes.
With 2 weeks, you just really hope Seth Luttrell has kind of had a reimagination of this offense. I'm not saying reinvent the wheel, but just, okay, you've got different skill sets now. Let's put together a game plan that can compete with Texas in the first half from an offensive standpoint. The offensive line, let's just go ahead and move to injuries. Is that okay? Can we do that?
Yeah, let's do it.
The offensive line, Teddy Lehman was at the Brown O'Haver offices on Tuesday. Got to spend a little bit of time with him before he started his show. He said, John, here's the deal. The offensive line is still very banged up. Very banged up. However, they played the entire game against Auburn and got better in the second half. Jake Taylor, our center. Oh, my mind's going blank on our center. Who's the center? Yeah, Hickman, the transfer from SMU. They got a little bit stronger as the game went on, and they started to hold up a little bit better against Auburn. With 2 weeks, you really hope that can continue to be the case, and you can have some continuity at the offensive line. If that's the case, then I think Hawkins has a really good chance of running the quarterback run game and the run game, especially if we can get Taylor Tatum back.
That makes sense.
I will say, on the flip side, though, there's certain people that think Taylor Tatum continues to be a liability in every other facet of the running back game.
Okay, the pass protection and all that.
Pass protection, picking up those backside blocks, whatever that, reading whatever.
It really is important. I know, most fans are, who cares if we can run the ball, let them run the ball. And that's fine, but until your quarterback gets blindsided by a blitz and turns the ball over because your running back simply didn't know where the blitz was coming from.
But here's the problem, right? He's our best. I say he's our best chance at a home run. We haven't had a lot of home runs running the ball. We haven't had any home runs running the ball this year. But I think he's our best home run hitter. The problem with Javonte Barnes is, okay, so you had his freshman year where he averaged 3.6 yards a carry. Then you had his sophomore year where everybody said he was hurt and he averaged 3.2 yards a carry. And now he's in his junior year behind a depleted offensive line, but he's averaging 3.6, 3.7 yards a carry. Okay, dude, that's a pretty good sample size of what you're going to get from Javonte Barnes.
Yeah, that's just who he is at this point.
That's who he is. He's been behind really good offensive lines. He's been a little bit hurt, and now he's behind a crappy offensive line. It doesn't seem to matter. He gets you 3.7 yards a carry. Now, does he block well? Well, apparently, because they keep playing him. Is he a strong runner? I don't know. He looks like he should be stronger. Like, why that dude isn't breaking tackles blows my mind, because he's big and he's strong and he's fast and all the things. And I can't think of 3 tackles he's broken in 3 years, Kevin. It seems like everybody brings him down. So it's frustrating. So you say to yourself, okay, Barnes in obvious passing situations, Tatum in obvious running situations, but then that just dictates to Texas what you're going to do. All right, so that's the running backs. Lastly, for OU, well, there's 2 things. Wide receivers, I really only think the chance of getting a wide receiver back lay in the hands of Deion Burks. I don't think anybody else is coming back. I think Nick Anderson could be done for the year.
Okay, real quick, what do you make of this whole Nick Anderson thing? Is it just a legitimate injury where he can't play? I'm just hearing some things that.
What are you hearing?
Well, just people questioning how injured he really is.
Dude, listen, I always err on the side of the athlete.
Same.
You talk about you always being pro athlete. I just there's so few instances where these guys don't want to play. I believe that. These guys are football players. Number one, they want to make it to the league. If you're at OU or Texas, you want to make it to the league. Well, you ain't going to make it to the league sitting on the bench. That just doesn't happen. There's never been. We still have yet to see somebody go, I'm sitting out the whole year because I'm going to save myself for the draft. It hasn't happened. They sit out bowl games, but whatever. So I don't think he's saving himself. I think he is legitimately hurt. And I think it sucks. I think he tried to go against Tennessee and he either realized he couldn't go or he badly re-aggravated the injury. Either way, I think the dude wants to play football. I really, really do. And I just don't want to ever question that. The only athlete I ever really questioned that was Jay Cutler in the playoffs in the NFL about 10 or 15 years ago. Because that dude should have gone. Weak ass. You remember that. You know what I'm talking about.
Yeah, I just didn't think we'd have a Jay Cutler reference in this episode.
Hey, you know what, dude? He makes it in. He's still very relevant. Anyway, so that's my good news, bad news. I think we get Deion Burks back, but I don't think we get anybody else back. And then lastly, on the defensive side of the ball, I think we're getting Dason McCullough back, dude. We lost Kendall Dolby, which was a huge loss. The kid was playing great ball, really, really good ball. But we've talked about Dason McCullough. We know how good he looked at times last year. Hell, think about how good he looked in the OU Texas game last year. You get Dason McCullough, and he's healthy, and he's feeling good, and he's getting reps in. As long as he gets the reps in, I'm excited to add him to the defensive side of the ball.
I have a question, though. Where does he fit in? Because isn't he typically playing the cheetah position?
Well, so, yes. So Dolby, so the cheetah position is basically a nickel. We've talked about this. It's basically a nickel. So you're in obvious passing situations, it always made sense that it was Dolby. But Dolby was good enough to come up and run support. And then in running situations, then you typically may look at like an Omosigo, or in this case, Dason McCullough. So I still think that you might have to look at somebody else in obvious passing situations. But here's the thing with Texas. Y'all love Gunnar Helm. You use your tight ends quite often. So even in passing situations, somebody's going to have to match up with a Gunnar Helm. And if you remember this, you and I had a big old fight last year. It was actually one of our better fights about you taking Jatavion Sanders and me taking Dason McCullough. And I'm saying, let's go straight up with these guys. Like, I think this is a great matchup. Well, I'll contend with Gunnar Helm. It's an even better matchup for Dason McCullough if he's healthy. So I think that even in an obvious passing situation, as long as Gunnar Helm is being used in a passing role, I take McCullough, guard him one-on-one. I still contend with that as long as he's healthy.
Omosigo in pass coverage.
Oh, dude, listen, I love what I've seen from Omosigo. So I don't. It's just another dude.
Yeah.
And another good dude. So I don't want to demote anybody. Dude, they play a lot of guys. Well, we got one of the best linebackers in the country, and he plays 60% of the snaps.
I was a big fan of Omosigo in the recruiting process. I thought he was great.
Dude, he looked good. He looked good against Auburn and Tennessee. Yeah. He looked really good. All right, Texas. Quinn, the questions I have for health is Quinn, the secondary health, and anything we need to know about running backs. And then anybody else you want to talk about on the injury front.
From everything I'm hearing, that Quinn will be back and be very close to 100% in the Cotton Bowl. I think we'll have, all of our running backs, at least the ones that were healthy to start the season. So we'll have Trey Wisner. Hopefully, Jaden Blue will be better at protecting the football because he absolutely cannot fumble. Texas cannot have any turnovers in this game. It cannot happen. And I think Derek Williams,
Well,
the
you
chance that
say
he's back
that.
to. Well, you
Listen,
know
you
what I'm
say
saying.
that,
Like
but you have a better chance to absorb turnovers than Oklahoma does. You have a bigger margin of
that's
error.
true. That's true. But
But I
these
mean,
turnovers in
you
this
don't
game
want
could
to turn
be
it. Yeah, you don't want to turn it over. But if a team was to have a 2 turnover deficit and still win the game, it's Texas, not Oklahoma.
makes sense. Yeah, that makes sense. But again, man, protect the football, especially at the running back position. To me, fumbles are just maybe I'm wrong about this, but fumbles are worse than interceptions for me. Running backs dropping the ball, putting it on the ground are worse than quarterbacks turning it over. Right?
Yeah,
Every
I
play the
agree.
guys are going to be punching for the football. Quarterbacks, you can just see a
Well,
coverage you don't expect. So
historically, what's one of the biggest turnovers for Texas in this game? Was that punch out? Oh, what year was the punch out by your guy in the red zone looking to score? You would raise your hands for a touchdown.
oh yeah, Curtis Lofton on Jamal Charles in 2007.
Yeah,
Completely, yeah. I
that was
mean,
one
it's
of the.
one score
That's
game,
one
one
of the.
tie the game.
That is one of the biggest turnovers in the history of the series because when it happened, where it happened, how it happened. You guys thought you were going to score. He knocks it out. Game's over. Like it's
Yeah,
over.
it was a game-changing play. So yeah, so you can't have fumbles, and I think Derek Williams, the safety, will be back as well. So now I'm feeling pretty good about Texas and their health situation.
Well, good for you. Good for freaking Texas. Oklahoma's the home team. They're going to have recruiting rights. I don't know if there's any head-to-head matchups that will be there. I'm curious if we're going to get the kid from Baylor that we just offered. If maybe we could get him up to Dallas. Sounds like he's a really good player. If we could get him switched, he's currently committed to Baylor, but maybe he'll cheat with Oklahoma and come to this game and feel the pageantry and realize that will never ever happen at Baylor because it will never ever happen at Baylor.
No, this is nothing that they can do to compete with an atmosphere like the Cotton Bowl.
No. Kevin, let's talk about the week that is. Week 6, college football. Oklahoma and Texas have the weekend off. You and I, we're still plugging away in the Boomer Bevo podcast. There's no off weekends for us. We talk OU Texas in June. But anyway, the guys got it off. They're going to be sitting up, playing some video games, watching some ball. Let's talk about what they're going to be watching. Friday night, Michigan State at Oregon. Oregon is a 24-point favorite. Syracuse at UNLV. Here's the stats on UNLV. In the AP poll, they're tied for number 25 and 23 in the coaches poll. Malik Williams replaced Sluka, the kid that has left the team over an NIL dispute. All this kid did was 13 of 16 for 182 and 3 touchdowns, 12 carries for 119 yards, 9.9 yards a carry and a touchdown. The better question at this point is why wasn't this dude playing over Sluka?
Yeah, I think it's probably just the experience factor. Sluka played a lot of football. I mean, I don't know it's for Holy Cross, but he's a tough kid too. Sluka, but clearly they did not miss him. They didn't miss him at all.
Did you see Williams? Did you see him on TV? The dude's ginormous, man.
Yeah.
This is a big, old quarterback, man. And he comes tumbling down against these guys. Listen, you almost wonder if there was NIL ramifications, and that's why he was playing. Like he had to play because they promised him he'd play, and all of the stuff that goes with that. It's just, this stuff is getting muddy because this guy looked really, really good. They've got him now. They're 4-0 wins. We've talked about it already. 2 wins against Big 12 teams. They're right in line. They're knocking on the door of the college football playoff, which if they could do it with this quarterback would be an amazing story.
Yeah. Barry Odom, the head coach.
6.5-point favorite against Syracuse Friday night. Saturday, we talked about it. Let's talk about it some more. This is likely a game we're going to pick. Missouri at Texas A&M. A&M is a 2.5-point favorite at home against number 9 Missouri. Who will start at quarterback for A&M?
Oh, I think you got to stick with the Reed kid.
That's what Drinkowitz says.
Yeah.
Drinkowitz says that anything about Connor Wegman's a smokescreen. They're going with the Reed kid.
Yeah, I mean he's just been really solid. I did not like what I saw from Wegman week 1 against Notre Dame. I don't know Notre Dame has a good defense, but I mean, he
It was
just looked
bad. It
completely
was bad.
inept. Yeah, and the Reed kid, at least he's brought some sort of spark to the offense. I think you gotta roll with it. I have a question though: is A&M actually okay? They're actually a decent team.
Hold that thought.
Okay,
Hold that thought, because we're going to break down the SEC. And currently, they're number one in the SEC rankings right now. They are number one in the SEC standings. So we're going to talk, are they a pretender or contender? We'll come back. That's a great question. That'll lead into the next one. UCLA is at Penn State. Penn State is a 28-point favorite. Good Lord, UCLA. What in the hell? SMU at Louisville. Louisville's a 7-point favorite. Iowa at Ohio State. Ohio State is a 20-point favorite at home. Kevin, why is it that Ohio State feels like they can avoid playing anybody for as long as possible? I just always feel like that is their mode.
It works out for them. Yeah, it works out for them. I don't think, do they even play Penn State this year?
I don't even know, dude. But they just now listen. I'm not saying they never schedule good opponents. I think they got Texas next year. Is that right?
Yes.
They'll have Texas. We've talked about them having scheduled Oklahoma in the past. They played against Oregon when Oregon was a Pac-12 team. So I'm not completely saying they avoid it, but there's just some seasons with Ohio State where they play nobody.
Yeah.
And you don't even watch their games. Have you even watched an Ohio State game this year?
Not much. I watched a few minutes of one just to see Jeremiah Smith, who is incredible.
The real deal.
By the way.
Yeah.
Yeah. Him and Ryan Williams.
How does Will Howard look for them?
He looks fine. You know, he hasn't been spectacular in my opinion, but they haven't needed him to be spectacular with all those weapons they have. Their schedule, though, it does get a little tougher. All right. They've got Iowa, like you mentioned. Next week, they go to Eugene to play Oregon. I mean, what a matchup.
That'll be a matchup. That's going to be a good game.
And it's going to be the night game. It's going to be 6:30 right after our game. So We'll see if we have anything left emotionally to even be able to watch this game. We'll see how that goes.
Yeah.
They have a bye week after that. Then they host Nebraska, who's tough, right? I think we can admit that Nebraska's a tough team. They're not.
It'll be a tough out. They'll be a tough out.
And then they go to Penn State November 2nd.
Dude, Penn State, they lose. Penn State loses. Penn State sucks against good teams.
I agree, but I mean, it should be.
What are we talking?
It's there. It's a whiteout. It's
Penn State. Penn State's going to make the freaking playoffs at 10-2, losing the 2 games they always lose, not having made the Big Ten championship, and then they're going to lose in the first round of the playoffs. Like I'm just telling you, mark it down right now. I mean, that's Penn State's life.
I mean, it's pretty much what it is.
And James Franklin will make some eloquent excuse, and we'll talk about what a good coach James Franklin is. Although we won't on this podcast because I think he is what he is. A 9-3, 10-2 coach that's never going to win anything. And maybe that's Penn State. I don't know. Whatever.
And Penn State, they don't play Michigan this year, but they do go to USC.
Well, I'll be rooting for James Franklin. I take away all those bad thoughts that week. Go James Franklin. Let's get
also next week. So just a crazy slate of games next week. They'll be on the same time as we are, so we won't be watching them play. But yeah, same time, 2:30.
Yeah, I love it. Next week is unprecedented, the level of good games that are going to be played.
Correct.
And that's outside the greatest rivalry in college football. It's unbelievable. It's moving to the SEC. Auburn at Georgia. Georgia's a 24-point favorite. This is going to be an interesting game to see. I know you can't compare games, and I know the transitive property doesn't work in sports, and I know this game's at Georgia, not at Auburn. But as an OU fan, you'd really love Auburn to cover the 24 and show some fight. You've seen Georgia have close games against Kentucky. Maybe that was their only close game. But anyway.
Alabama game that they lost.
Well, obviously Alabama that they lost. But so you'd like to see Auburn have some fight so that it kind of makes you feel good going into Texas that, hey, this Auburn team might not be that bad after all. The last thing you want to see is like 52-13, and then you're just going, oh, man, that win was not very good. So I think we're going to pick this game, though. Georgia's a 24-point favorite. Ole Miss, South Carolina. This is a sneaky line, Kevin. South Carolina is a 9.5-point dog at home. Keep in mind, South Carolina beat Kentucky 31-6, and Ole Miss lost to Kentucky at home 20-17. I'm not sure this line is not something we're taking a close look at South Carolina on.
Same, especially with South Carolina's defensive line. We saw what Kentucky's D-line did to Ole Miss last week. I mean, they dominated in the trenches.
You love
And
South Carolina's defensive line. You
I
love their
do.
defensive line.
Yeah. Yeah, it's salty, man. You guys have to face them coming up here in a couple weeks. So, yeah, they can get after the quarterback. So, we'll see with
Okay.
Ole Miss. What are you about, right? Are
Yeah.
you a finesse team? Are you a tough team? And are you going to bounce back and try to go out and win the rest of the games on your schedule? How
Well, I tell
serious
you
of
what,
a team are you?
we talked about it, man. It gets hard for Ole Miss. It gets really, really hard for Ole Miss. And, you know, this 12-team playoff has made things a lot more accessible, but it hasn't really gotten rid of every game mattering.
No,
You
it has
know?
not. And that's what people were scared of, man. You tell me that Auburn-Georgia game didn't matter. I mean, that was incredible. And both teams were fighting their tails off. Here's Ole Miss's schedule. South Carolina, they go to LSU.
Which won't be easy.
Also October 12th. Just another
Jeez.
crazy game on that schedule. Yeah. Then Oklahoma, you guys go there October 26th.
Yeah, with our defense, our defense travels. I mean, I don't know if we'll have the points, but you have to think our offense is hopefully by then at least on par with Kentucky. I hope so. We'll see.
Yeah, I think you're on par with Kentucky now. I mean, come on.
Offensively,
Kentucky. Offensively, yeah. And then Arkansas, which is no easy game. And they got to go there. And then
if Arkansas doesn't turn the ball over.
Correct, but you never know with Taylor Green, as talented as he is. Then they host Georgia November 9th. They go to Florida, and then they finish with the Egg Bowl against Mississippi State. So it's a tough schedule for them. They could not afford to lose that Kentucky game last week. Just absolutely did not happen.
Because I don't know that they get in at 9-3 because their non-conference wasn't very good. If they go 9-3, Ole Miss that is, they don't have a signature win. I don't think at 9-3. I mean, maybe Furman, an Oklahoma team.
Yeah, Furman, Middle Tennessee, Wake Forest, and Georgia Southern. That's their non-conference.
Yeah.
All right, man. Not good enough. Yeah.
Okay, we'll come back to Alabama at Vandy. Vandy's a 22.5-point dog at home. Tennessee at Arkansas. Arkansas 13.5 points. Let's see what happens to Tennessee. Can they go into Arkansas and dominate? That's kind of what you want to see from Tennessee. This is a team they should go ahead and beat comfortably if they're really as good as everybody thinks they are.
And I think they're really going to unleash that offense that you guys did a pretty good job against, and they really took the air out of the game in the second half, just running it over and over and over. I think they really try to open it up and put some points on the board because I think people are questioning how good that offense really is after the game against OU. I think they light up Arkansas.
Yeah. Clemson has found their way back into the top 25 like they always do. They're at Florida State. This game looked a whole heck of a lot better in August than it does in October. Florida State is a 14.5-point dog at home. I'm thankful we're not picking this game because I think that's a very weird number, 14.5. I would tend to err towards Clemson covering it, but maybe Florida State rises up.
Well, no, apparently DJ's not playing for Florida State. I don't know if that's a good or a bad thing for Florida State fans, but I believe he's out. I think he has a hand injury. So 1-4. Who would have thought 1-4 for Florida State?
DJ Uiagalelei is going to be somebody that we talk about for years to come of a kid that had so much promise that just never fulfilled. Yeah. You know, he was in the next.
To unlock it for whatever reason.
He was next in line with Deshaun Watson for whatever his pro issues are. Was a great college quarterback. Then Trevor Lawrence, and then you just thought, well, man, this thing is just going to keep rolling. A lot like Spencer Rattler in a way, I think, but maybe not even as effective as Spencer Rattler. I don't think DJ is going to get. I don't think he's going to get drafted. Do you?
I mean, you know, these guys will draft somebody just on potential, see if they're going to unlock something. But I mean, we're talking about 7 very late rounds, if at all, and just because of physical ability. Do you remember when Trevor Lawrence was injured and they went on the road against Notre Dame and he started? And he looked so good, so poised.
Yep.
And we thought, oh man, they're just gonna keep it rolling from Watson. Remember, they even had Kelly Bryant in between Trevor Lawrence and Watson and Lawrence, and he took him to the college football playoff.
Yeah, he was a great player.
But he ended up losing his starting job to to Trevor Lawrence because Lawrence was just that talented, you know. But yeah, it just seemed like he was definitely next up and just never unlocked. Same thing goes to Oregon State. I mean, there's moments where it looks okay, but it's never ever been consistent, and it's just been an absolute disaster for him and just for Florida State in general this year. I mean, they went to SMU and they lost 42-16 to SMU. What are we talking about here? I mean, what are they going to do with Mike Norvell? Are they going to just consider this an off year and then run it back?
They have to consider it off year. They have to consider it off year. I mean, he had defections. He's losing players, and there's just a lot of bad juju around getting left out of the playoff and all the stuff.
Yeah.
I think you got to give him a pass. I don't think he's a bad coach. I think he's a good coach. I just think this is one of those years, and you see what kind of coach he is next year. Like, I really do. I don't think I don't really care about Florida State that much, but I'm just saying I don't think you look at this performance and say, oh, he's a terrible coach. He's forgot how to coach. I don't think that's true.
Yeah.
I think it's just a perfect storm of crap. And
it's just wild.
He hasn't absorbed it yet.
And like, if you look at who they played, Georgia Tech, Boston College, Memphis, Cal, and SMU. And they've only won one of those games. They've got Clemson. They got to go to Duke, who's still undefeated. Shout out to Malik Murphy, former Longhorn.
He's played well. He made the right call there.
Yeah. Then they got to go to Miami, who looks really good. North Carolina, who hasn't been great. Then they go to Notre Dame. They got the easy win against Charleston Southern. And then they host Florida. Yeah, for real, with this offense. Then they host Florida. Can you imagine that? Billy Napier and Mike Norvell there. What are their combined records going to be?
What a terrible matchup. All right, we got to stop talking mediocrity. Michigan, number 10, Michigan holding strong, giving credit to Texas's win, is at Washington. Washington, though, 2.5-point favorite. We'll see what Michigan does. USC is at Minnesota. Minnesota's an 8.5-point dog. Minnesota, rise up. Rise up and be insulted that you're an underdog at home to a team that can't play defense. Although I'm afraid Miller Moss might be the real deal. Baylor at Iowa State, 11.5-point favorite for Iowa State. Two more games we're going to pick, though, Kevin. Miami at Cal, the aforementioned Cal, who did lose to Florida State, right?
They actually did lose a 14-9.
But up to that point, they were playing well. Miami at Cal, it's a 3-hour time zone difference. Miami has to travel west. Cal is a 10.5-point underdog at home. The reason I think we'll pick this game is the line is really interesting because I think Cal is better than what we normally think of when we think of Cal. And this is a big travel day for the in-season, in-conference game. Let's see if it affects it.
No, it's very interesting.
Well, thank you for
that.
I
like Cam Moore, though. I like Cam Moore, though.
You like Miami. You think they're real. I think they should have lost to Virginia Tech. I think they got hosed. I think Virginia Tech got hosed.
I agree. I don't think you couldn't see what happened there.
Even with that loss,
anything to overturn it.
Even with that loss to Virginia Tech, though, I think Miami's a pretty good team. I really do. Virginia Tech. I mean, they're a rival. Going back to the 90s.
Long time.
Yeah, I don't. There wouldn't have been shame in losing that game. I think there might be shame in the fact that game was stolen from Virginia Tech. Lastly, they're not ranked, but maybe they should be. The Navy midshipmen are undefeated. They're at Air Force. Air Force is a 10-point dog at home. I got this in because I respect Navy. I think Navy's good, man. How cool would it be to get a service academy into the college football playoff?
That'd be pretty wild, man. And, they're actually throwing the ball more than you would expect.
Yes.
Navy to do so. I can't even imagine Navy throwing the football.
What's Navy's upcoming
Roger
schedule?
Staubach was there.
What's Navy's upcoming schedule? Do you have it?
Navy, yeah. 1 second. All right, obviously Air Force this week. Then they host Charlotte.
Win.
They host Notre Dame.
Ooh. Listen, dude, Navy's beat Notre Dame before. Navy has beat Notre Dame before.
They have.
That is a pivotal game for both schools. If Navy goes in there undefeated, when is that game? Is that October 12th too?
No, it's October 26th.
Okay.
11 a.m.
All right. Man, that could be a really good game. Let's keep an eye on that one.
Yeah. Then they go to Rice.
Win.
They go to South Florida.
Win.
They host Tulane.
Ooh,
Yeah.
ooh,
So,
that could be good.
and then they go to East Carolina. And then, of course, they play against Army. It's a neutral site game.
Now, will they have announced the college football playoff by the time they play Army?
That's very interesting because the game is December 14th.
It's always a week out. It's a week out. It's like the same day they give the
Yeah, it's after
Heisman away,
it's after the conference championship games.
which is fine. I
The week
love
out.
that game. The
Me
pomp and
too.
circumstance of that game is beyond.
Yeah,
I mean, it's
it's
next level.
but it makes you wonder though, how is that going to work with the college football playoff announcements?
Do they hold a spot open if Navy? I mean, if Navy beats Notre Dame, that's legit.
It
Dude.
becomes very interesting. Yeah.
All right.
I don't know
All
how
right.
this is going to work.
Let's pick these games. Right now, you are 12-14, by far your worst record through 5 weeks. Let's see if you can get over 500. I, on the other hand, am 4 games over 500 at 15-11. We're going to pick 5 games. None of them are OU Texas because both of them have bye weeks, so this might be a little difficult for us. Missouri at A&M. A&M's a 2.5-point favorite.
This one's tough, man, because A&M actually might be good, and that defensive line is salty. But I'm going to go with Missouri here. I think they bounce back. I don't feel good about that at all, by the way.
I have not been impressed with Missouri this year. They haven't beat
Neither
teams
have I.
like you thought they should beat them. Vandy was a struggle. They've had some other struggles. A&M's at home. I think they're getting a spark from their quarterback, like we talked about. I hate to do. The good news is I hate both of these teams. The bad news is I have to pick one of them. I'm going to go with A&M at home, 2.5-point favorite. Even if they win by a field goal, they cover. Auburn at Georgia, 24 points. A lot of points in the SEC coming.
I think it really comes down to Auburn's mentality. Are they quitting on the season, or are they going to come out and fight? If they come out and fight, they can keep it within 24 points of Georgia. I think they have enough talent to do that.
Okay, so do they?
They just can't turn the damn ball over. Yeah, I think
so. What do? You're taking Auburn?
I think Auburn covers.
I'm taking Auburn to cover too for the same reason. I think you saw some good things out of Auburn. Peyton Thorne, minus the one really bad throw.
Yeah, and I was impressed with their offensive line. I thought I
was impressed with Hunter.
Yeah, I thought they run blocked well, and I thought they protected well. I thought they gave Thorne time to throw, and he did pretty good up until that last drive there.
Don't you feel like him and Hugh Freeze need to get on the same page? Like that was their biggest obstacle was themselves. In a way,
they're gonna have to drop that RPO stuff because he's making the
wrong
decisions.
Just call the
run play. Just call a run play. Don't. He's clearly can't handle that.
You got Dark Quest. Get the kids.
Give him the ball. Yeah,
he's a 4-year. He's a 4-year player. We talked about this in the preview, man. He's 900 yards rushing last year. He looks really good. You give him the ball in the fourth quarter, you probably beat Oklahoma.
Yeah.
Okay. Ole Miss at South Carolina, 9.5-point dog at home, South Carolina. Who do you got?
I got South Carolina.
Dude, listen, I have South Carolina too, and I'm not sure it's not an upset.
Okay.
They've got a little momentum at that program, man. They're playing well. They just got a big recruit. I didn't see what his name was, so don't quote me on that. But I think they just got a big recruit flip. I think at home, I just don't know if Lane is the kind of coach that can rally the troops. I think Lane is a really good coach when things are going well. And there's a talent to that. You keep the train on the tracks, you keep everybody feeling good and loose. But when things start to get a little sketchy, I'm not sure he's the guy you look for stability, if that makes any sense.
Yeah. I think last week against Kentucky, those losses happened, right? I think we've all gone through. You guys have lost those random games at K-State.
K-State, Iowa
State. Yeah. So we'll know what they're really about this week. Do they come back and they destroy South Carolina? Then, okay. But if they struggle or lose, then it's like, okay, yeah, we're out.
Yeah. All right. Miami, go to the West Coast for an ACC game. Let that paradox settle in on you. Miami at Cal. Cal's a 10.5-point dog. Do you think Cal has enough to keep this game close?
I think they do, but I think Miami pulls away and they cover just because of Cam Ward. I think he's that good.
I had Miami covering. I think they cover the game. I don't think Cal's talented enough to hang with Miami. And then Navy and Air Force. Listen, I'm calling it now in week 5. Maybe I'm a little, or week 6. Maybe I'm a little late to the Navy party, but that's okay. This is what bandwagons were made for. I think Navy could have something special going this season if they keep this up. They're a 10-point favorite at Air Force. Does Navy cover against the what would those be? What is the Air Force?
The Falcons.
The Falcons in Colorado Springs.
Colorado Springs, yeah. I think they do. I like what Navy's got going, and I think they handle business.
I agree. How close did you live to Colorado Springs when you lived in Colorado?
I lived in Colorado Springs.
Oh, how's that campus? Is it pretty legit?
Oh yeah, you'd love it, man.
Oh, I bet.
You'd absolutely love it. Correct. Yeah.
Yeah.
And the coolest part about it is their graduations. Have you ever seen how their graduations go?
No.
So at the end, they have the whole ceremony and everything. And at the end, the head guy of the campus, I guess the
Commandant,
colonel or whatever. Yeah.
Yeah.
So he gets up on stage and he's like, I now announce the class of, 2024 dismissed. And then at the same time, everybody throws up their hats and instantly a flyover happens right over them. It's awesome, man. It gives you chills. And it's cool when you live there, when graduation week's coming because you hear them practicing the flyover.
Oh,
just
man.
to see it. I'm gonna send you a link. Yeah, it'll give you chills, man. It's awesome.
Listen, I grew up in a military. We both grew up in a military town in San Antonio. So you got used to seeing airplanes flying over you, and it's cool. And now we live in Oklahoma City. I get to live on the flight line of Tinker. So when there's a north wind, planes are coming. I'm right on the flight line. I just get to watch these planes come by. I was always fascinated as a kid. My biggest regret is not getting my pilot's license. I just love it. I love air and stuff. It's a big part of my family's tradition too. My grandfather flew in Korea.
Oh, that's awesome, man.
Yeah, I love that stuff, man. And you're right. I geek out on it. But unfortunately for Air Force, it's not going to happen this week. Navy's going to take care of business. All right. We got about 15 minutes here in our podcast. I want to shout out Brown O'Haver. Brown O'Haver is our public insurance adjusting firm. They work for you, not the insurance company. You, as a homeowner or business owner, can hire Brown O'Haver to adjust your insurance claim and get you more money. It's very simple. Just like you'd hire somebody to do your taxes, just like you'd hire somebody to clean your house, you can hire somebody to adjust your insurance claim. And we get clients 30 to 40% more than they typically get on their own. Give Brown O'Haver a call, 405-735-5510. Kevin, there was some big hail last week. Who should they call if they have a hail incident at their home and they're wondering if they should get a new roof? You're on mute, Kevin. You're on mute.
Yeah,
nobody can hear that, Kevin.
This hailstorm, man, it was one of the worst we've had here in the metro in years. So if you've been affected by it, if your home's been affected, give Pioneer Roofing a call, 405-549-2712. And they'll go out, give you a free inspection, let you know if you have enough damage to file a claim. And not if you do, they can help you with the claims process. And of course, if you have issues with your claim, give Brown O'Haver a call.
Awesome. Kevin, in the closing minutes of episode 136, let's talk about the SEC so far. We're still getting to know these teams. We're still getting to kind of feel. Y'all haven't even played a road game yet. Before we do that, I want to mention something. Are you aware that now the Big Ten and the SEC are trying to enter into an even more formalized partnership where they start to play interconference games together? Like this is a possibility where you're going to have interconference games on the schedule. And in addition,
a little bit about it. What do you know about this? Because
I know a lot. I heard it on the radio this morning, and then I checked it out online before we started. But it looks like it's in conjunction with the SEC and the Big Ten trying to mandate 4 playoff spots for each of their conferences, like guaranteed 4 spots. And then in addition to that, they're saying, okay, we should also start playing inter-conference games like Iowa at Oklahoma or Purdue or Texas going to Purdue or whatever the case may be. Kevin, we started this in the summer of 21, the podcast, right?
Mm-hmm.
Was that when we started it?
Or 22.
In the summer of 22. And in the summer of 22 is when the announcement was made that we were going to go to the SEC. And then it was followed up very closely by USC and UCLA going to the Pac-12. I called this, Kevin. I told you in the summer of 2022 that the Big Ten and the SEC are going to create NFL Light. That you'll have 32 teams. You'll have 32 teams. They will start to play each other more regularly. And they will create an elite version of college football. And I think this is further. I'm not saying it's going to happen this decade, but we're going to get really close. They've already got all the money. Look, the ACC, not only are they struggling with their team's performances outside of Miami, they're just struggling financially. Teams are still looking to get out of the ACC.
They're looking to get out. They have been for a few years now.
The Big 12, while I admit is a fun conference to watch, it's basically the new MAC, right? It is. It's teams that wish they were better, but really aren't ever going to be better. And so it is fascinating to watch. I called it in 2022. And I think in some ways it will suck because you lose what it is to be college football, meaning you play some other teams and, other teams get a chance to play you, i.e. Temple and Houston. But maybe we don't need those teams, Kevin. Maybe with 12, 14, 16 team playoffs, maybe we should just be playing Big Ten teams outside of conference play and an occasional cupcake and then go try to win it in the playoff.
Yeah, man, it's going to be so interesting to see how this all unfolds. There have been so many changes to our sport over the past few years, right? So we'll see if this happens. I'm not exactly sure how I feel about it just yet.
It feels weird, though, right? Don't you think it feels like kind of weird?
Yeah, I mean, the conference realignment has been weird, right? Like Miami and Cal being a conference game is weird.
Stupid.
I mean, I
not only
can't get over that. Watching Stanford play against Clemson as a conference game, it just doesn't make any sense. So it's weird. It's probably going to get weirder. So we just got to see how it goes and be willing to adjust if we're going to continue to be fans of this sport.
I said it in September 22, and it's even more real now in 2024. We got Oklahoma and Texas, made it to the cool kids table, and it's not fortunate because I think Oklahoma and Texas had brands enough to survive, but it's fortunate. We're not on the outside looking at whatever changes are made. We're on the inside.
Looking to be where we are.
I can't imagine if you're a Oklahoma State fan or even a Clemson fan or a Miami fan and you read headlines like this and you're like, oh, crap. This sucks.
Especially a Clemson fan, right? To as good as you've been, 2 national championships over the past few years, you can be left out of this thing.
I mean, essentially relegated. Yeah. That's what if it proceeds the way it seems to be proceeding, there's a feeling of relegation to those other teams, and just fascinating to watch. All right, the SEC so far: Oklahoma 1-1 in the SEC, win against Auburn, loss against Tennessee, Texas, convincing win, especially in the second half against Mississippi State, where you just pulled away with superior talent. As we look at the rankings, I'm going to ask you, who's real, who's not? A&M is your leader in the clubhouse, right? So
what's their SEC record right now?
2-0 with wins against Florida and Arkansas and a game coming up against Missouri, ranked number 25 in the country. Are they for real?
I think it's too soon. I'm going to call them a pretender.
Too soon. You're calling them a pretender.
When it comes to winning the conference, yeah, I think they're pretty good, and obviously they have a lot of talent. But I don't know if the offense is going to be dynamic enough to get them through the conference. Although their schedule is not the hardest that we've seen. So,
and if they could upset Texas at the end, it would be really interesting.
Oh my goodness,
things would get really
huge for them.
Things would get really interesting really quick.
Absolutely.
In second, tied for second, all with 1-0 records, is Texas, Bama, Missouri, Tennessee, and LSU. Texas with a win against Mississippi State. Bama with the signature win of the year in the country against Georgia. Missouri's only beaten Vandy, and they only beat them by 3. Tennessee beat Oklahoma at home, and LSU has beaten South Carolina. Who will stay in the hunt, and who is going to fall off?
Well, I mean, I do think Texas will stay in the hunt with their talent and their experience. I think Alabama will.
Obviously, clearly. I think Kalen DeBoer, you give that coach the talent that Nick Saban has accumulated over the last 4 years.
And that's a great point, right? We saw what this guy was able to do coaching up 3-star guys in Washington,
lesser talent,
developing 3 stars into first-round picks and second-round picks. There's receivers, Odunze, Jalen Polk, and McMillan. These guys were 3-star guys, and they're all first, second-round picks in the NFL. That's no accident. Same thing on the defensive side of the ball, sending guys to the NFL. You give him 5 stars, and you're seeing that. You're seeing Ryan Williams wrecked as a freshman. We're seeing the elevated Jalen Milroe playing in a scheme that fits his skill set more. And what I like about it, he's not making Milroe turn into Michael Penix. He's letting him be Jalen Milroe, just elevated.
He's adopted his system to his talent, 100%.
Which I love. I hate when coaches try to force their team to play their system, especially if they don't have the ability to do so. So, I mean, you've heard me talk about Kalen DeBoer since we started this thing in 22. He's not a good coach. He's an elite coach. And he's never lost to Sark or Kirby Smart or Dan Lanning. So we're talking about 3 of the better coaches in college football. And Kalen DeBoer is undefeated against those guys.
I'll tell you what, man, it's the question is not going to be whether his scheme is going to, hold up. It's going to be, can he hold up on the recruiting end? And the problem is, we both know you keep winning, you'll keep recruiting. So it's
that's right.
He has landed in a really good spot, obviously, and he's taken advantage of it, obviously. So I agree. Texas, Bama, okay. Missouri, Tennessee, LSU.
Out on Missouri. I just haven't seen. If I had to guess right now, they just haven't looked consistent enough right now. Tennessee, I'm all in.
Oh, are you?
Yeah, I think Tennessee is a legit contender. I just, you guys did a good job against them, really getting after Nico. I'm not sure if he'll face a challenge like that. Even though they played Georgia, from what I've seen so far, does not get after the quarterback. You guys are it's like a chaotic defense. It's a lot of speed coming at you from a lot of different angles. I think Georgia's a bit more methodical, and they just play really sound defense. That's what they're trying to do. Yeah. You guys are just creating chaos, and it's tough for a young quarterback, and especially on the road. I don't think they'll face anything like that for the rest of the season. I think this offense is really going to get going, and I was really impressed with their defense. I know Jackson Arnold definitely made it easy for them, but I thought they were able to get after the quarterback. I think they have a really good depth at the defensive line. They were just rotating guys in and out against you guys, and it just wears on an offense eventually. So I really like Tennessee. I'm more on the fence about LSU. Right? They've done some good things.
I'm not on the fence. They're one wins against South Carolina, a loss against SC. I'm not sold on their coach. What's his name? Brian Kelly. He's a douche. He was a douche at Notre Dame. He's a douche at LSU. His teams look undisciplined when they play. I don't feel good about LSU. His defense hasn't drastically improved over last year. I just don't like where they're at. I think they're going to be a middle SEC team when this is said and done.
Gotcha.
Okay. Tied for 7th in the SEC, all with a 1-1 record. Oklahoma, Georgia, South Carolina, Arkansas, Florida. Georgia, the only one you expect to be able to rise above the crowd and still compete for an SEC championship?
Correct. I think Oklahoma, you guys will continue to improve. I think you just have too many factors going against you this year. Young quarterback, inexperienced offensive line, and just so many injuries, man. It's a lot going against you guys.
and schedule.
to compete, and of
schedule.
course the schedule. We knew about the schedule before the season. You add up all these other things that have happened, especially the injuries. It just makes it tough to consider.
But to not have Vanderbilt on your schedule, to not have Mississippi State on your schedule, to not have Florida on your sched'ule, that's rough, man.
Like, you got the gauntlet, man. They gave you guys the gauntlet coming in.
We just talked about South Carolina possibly upsetting. Who did I say? Who are we talking about? Who's South Carolina going to upset? I mean, they're possibly going to upset Ole Miss. It could be, even at home, could very much be like a game we saw at Auburn last week. Like, I expect it. Like, it's going to be field position, and we're going to have to count on our punter, and that's against South Carolina. So
yeah, you're going to have to bring it to win.
I don't disagree. I don't think at this point
this a C+ game.
And I think South Carolina, maybe 500 in the conference. Arkansas, no. Florida, we know Florida's not any good.
I will say Arkansas looks a lot better than I expected them to, with Bobby Petrino as the offensive coordinator and bringing in Talon Green from Boise State. This kid has a lot of ability. I know he turns over a lot. He's got a lot of ability.
I know it's not an SEC game, but how do you drop that game to Oklahoma State? Like, clearly Oklahoma State is not a great team.
They were dominating that game too.
Yeah, statistically they own that game. Pittman's got to figure out a way to close that out. Like, it's inexcusable.
You shut down Ollie Gordon too, and you still lost.
Everybody shot down.
This year, but we didn't know that at this point that Ollie Gordon just wasn't the same guy as he was last year.
Okay, cleaning up with losing records. Ole Miss and Vandy are both 0-1. Auburn, Mississippi State 0-2. I mean, I think we think Ole Miss could still be a contender. Is that
not out yet? Not out yet. We're getting close to the door, but we're not out yet.
We're getting super close.
Yeah.
I think you're right, though. You said it when we picked the game. If they show up in waylay South Carolina, you sit back and go, these games happen at Kentucky.
Yeah.
But if they don't,
I mean, we've seen this. I mean, you guys have played some tough ones, right? Tennessee at home, on the road at Auburn, but even Texas against Mississippi State, they had enough athletes to at least make it close for an entire half. So, I mean, this conference, man, every week you have to C+ efforts are not going to get the job done.
Oklahoma is looking at what Mississippi State did in that first half, and they're saying, okay, we have to do what they did. We have to keep the ball out of Texas's hands. We've got to try to. The difference is I don't think we can run the ball well enough. I think Mississippi State actually ran the ball better than Oklahoma can.
Here's the thing, though. They weren't. It was always 3 yards here, 4 yards here.
Well, we can get 3 yards.
I think the longest run they had was maybe 10 or 11 yards the entire game.
Because if it stays close, we're back to OU Texas. It always comes back to OU Texas. That's what this is about. If it stays close, Oklahoma has a chance. If it turns into any kind of a shootout or any kind of a 2-score game, we can come back 2 scores against Auburn. All right? And we did. I don't think we're coming back 2 scores against Texas. I just don't think it's this isn't
nearly as likely.
This isn't 2021 where it's 28-3 and you're thinking to yourself, well, I think we got a chance.
Yeah, we got Caleb Williams, we got Marvin Mims, we got
Listen, I know Texas fan doesn't believe it, but at 28-3, OU fan is looking at that score in 2021 and saying
28-7.
I thought it was 28. No, you sure?
7. Yeah. Trust me, I'm sure.
We're looking at the score at 28-7 and thinking, I think we got a chance. You get up 28-7, and I'm going to get Corny Don some beer. Like, it's that. I mean, this is 2022 all over again if y'all get up 28-7.
Yeah,
so,
it feels that way to me too.
But again, the emotion and where I'm at on the week of and the week before and all this, I'm saying just give Hawkins a chance.
This is not a game that you pick just based on these matchups. There's just another factor in it, the momentum shifts and the history and so this is not like picking Auburn, Georgia. This is different.
There's an emotional, psychological, almost mythical component to this game.
Yeah.
I mean, how many times in recent memory has OU been clearly the better team? 2013, 2015, it wasn't even close. Baker Mayfield's team went to the college football playoff. And your team was terrible. I think you lost to Kansas that year, or you were about to.
Yeah,
awful.
1-4.
No reason to lose that game.
Coming off a 50-7 loss to TCU, 50-7.
I mean, so anything can happen. Anything can happen. And that's why we cover the greatest rivalry in college football. Kevin, who's playing football tonight? Do we know? NFL tonight?
I don't actually.
I'm gonna look it up real quick, and then we'll call it. We'll call it after I look it up. Let's see. Is it Tampa Bay versus Atlanta? Ooh.
Oh, that should be fun. That'll be fun.
A little Baker versus Bijan. What do you think about the Falcons? You've watched some Falcons games this year so far, haven't you?
I have. I don't like the way that they're running the football.
They're not utilizing Bijan the way
they haven't unlocked it. Yeah, it hasn't looked great. You see his ability, but and it's 12 carries here, and it's interesting, man. But overall, as a team, they're very competitive. They're like a more balanced football team than they were last year.
Cousins looks like he's recovered from the injury fine.
Yeah, the first game, I think that was, he did not look good his first game. But ever since then, he's looked a lot better.
Yeah, he looks like who we think Kirk Cousins is, which is
and it gives you a chance.
Top 10, 12 quarterback in the league. He's not, you're not trading him for anybody, Yeah, he gives you a chance. Baker, on the other hand, just having a great year, dude. He's just having a great year. You look at what they did to Philadelphia. Philadelphia, I don't know what kind of team they are. They're struggling. People are questioning Sirianni already. But man, he's cooking right now, and it's a lot of fun to watch.
He's making some big time throws. He looks like the guy who was drafted number 1.
Did you see the one where he just threaded the needle? They showed it a couple three. You've seen it all over. You don't think of Baker as having arm strength. You think of him as being really accurate. But I don't know. Has his arm gotten stronger as he's gotten older?
Well, no. He changed that narrative for me in the 2017 Red River Shootout, the first drive of the game for you guys. And he kind of rolled out, stopped, flipped his hips, flat-footed through a 60-yard bomb to Jeff Badette for a touchdown.
Yep.
Yeah, I'm like, okay. Yeah, no, this dude has a very strong arm.
I just, but when you
that's not what you think of initially. Yeah, you think of
you're thinking of moxie and shifty and find the open guy.
Pocket mobility.
He was a Lincoln Riley guy, so yes, he can throw to wide open dudes, but can he really take it to the next level? Man, dude, some of these throws this year have been real. And you know what? It speaks to give a decent quarterback, which I think that's where you put Baker. I think Baker's a top. Right now, he's a top 10 quarterback, and it might not be close, but he's a top 10 quarterback. But give him some consistency with offensive coordinator and offensive system. Give him some weapons. Mike Evans, who we all know, we all love Mike Evans and everybody else he's got on that team. And you say, and a defense, Nick's he's gonna perform for you. Yeah. He might not win you every game. He's not Mahomes. Nobody is. But I think he's got a chance to be a who's the guy out in LA in the Rams?
Oh, Stafford?
I think he can be a Stafford, given enough time. And
I mean, if we're being
Stafford won a
honest
Super Bowl. Stafford won a Super Bowl.
If we're being honest here, so far Baker Mayfield has looked better than Patrick Mahomes has. So far this season.
I am not going to go that far because I will be obliterated as a homer. But I'm just saying that.
So far this season, I'm not talking about. I'm not even saying he's a better player. I'm just talking about so far through the first 4 games of the season. Baker Mayfield has looked better than Patrick Mahomes has.
You know who Mahomes really likes? You know who Mahomes really likes, though?
Who's that?
Xavier Worthy.
Yeah, you see that bomb? 62 yards in the air. Man,
he loves Xavier Worthy right now.
Well, here's the thing, man. With Rashee Rice going down, they believe to be a torn ACL, and on an interception, trying to tackle,
getting hit by his quarterback.
Yeah, it's just it's a mess, man. So they need more help at receiver.
They need to get Hollywood. They need to get Hollywood Brown back, but the problem is
he's out. No, he's out.
Is he done?
I think he's out for the whole season.
Oh no! I didn't hear that. Oh
yeah. Yeah, so they have to get another receiver somehow. Now, I don't think Devontae Adams asked for a trade. There is no way that the Raiders should trade him in division. But they need somebody. They're gonna have to find somebody else to come in and
You think they'll send Devontae Adams to the Jets? Is that the most likely landing
I would
spot?
think so. Yeah, I think he wants Jets or Saints because he loves his boy Derek Carr. Their boys, they played together at Fresno State. So I
My
think that's what
brother,
he
my
wants.
brother would welcome that move. My brother would welcome that. Do you see an Asian kicker though beat? Was the Asian kicker for the
Yeah,
Falcons? Is
young
that right?
Young Wei Koo. Yeah, he's been around for a few years now. Yeah, he's good.
Listen,
Yeah,
I love the diversity of the NFL. You can't beat it.
gotta love it,
You
man.
can't beat it. You can't beat it.
Yeah,
It's a worldwide sport. It's a worldwide sport,
yeah.
evidenced in that one kick. Kevin, what a great show. And listen, we officially kick off Hate Week on Sunday. We will break down the week that was, but we will start getting into. We're trying to line up at least one guest. I think we've got a commitment. That'll be a surprise, but we're going to try to line up a guest. But as we've done now for the past 2 seasons, this will be season 3. We will have as much content as possible to break down what is sure to be in the first season of the SEC, another historic moment in the OU Texas rivalry, and I cannot wait. Kevin, have a great rest of your Thursday. Boomer.
Hook 'em.